Gary Gibson, who says it owes almost £300,000, will stay in London for tomorrow's High Court move to keep the club in business.
A winding-up order yesterday threw his side's FA Cup fixture against Sheffield United on Saturday into chaos. It's a game that, ironically, could raise £60,000 in gate receipts. The real battle is now taking place off the field, with the creditors and the club meeting in court and the supporters on the sidelines. For them, it's a case of play on.
It was business as usual for the players as the football fans and financiers analysed the club's future. The team's having its best ever season for years and faces an FA Cup fourth round match at Sheffield United on Saturday, if Hartlepool survives its next legal battle in the High Court tomorrow. Today's training session at the Victoria Ground left manager Alan Murray in no doubts of their ability to take on the Premier League side, and was confident the game would go ahead.
I'm looking forward to it. The players are in good spirit. Obviously, yesterday's news wasn't good, but we are assured by the people who are expert at those matters that things will be put right. So we've put that message across to the players, basically. I've told them we have to be positive, and we're all in it together, and we've got to pull through. Difficult circumstances, but we're very confident it'll be sorted out. So we've had a good session this morning, and we're looking forward to Saturday.
Then the players showed they were in fine vocal form by putting the finishing touches to a record at the Tees Beat studios in neighbouring Stockton. The song, Up and Away, has been written by a Hartlepool group, Candy Ranch, recording the club's history and its success, but written before the latest dramatic development. An application to rescind the winding-up order on the 85-year-old club, which rocked the town last night, is being heard in London tomorrow. The club chairman, Gary Gibson, was there today, giving the latest details to his first meeting of the Football League Management Committee, to which he's just been elected. The Companies Court yesterday was told of more than £250,000 owed to the Inland Revenue and the VAT man. But the club admitted in a statement today total debts of just under £300,000. The club's main phone line's been cut off. Cleveland County Council says it's owed more than £50,000 for policing matches. Other local creditors are watching the situation with interest, and Hartlepool Council says it's been helping the club financially.
It came as something of a shock yesterday, I think. The total amount that was involved was higher than many people had anticipated. And so disappointment perhaps would be a word that would sum up my general reaction.
A club statement says it expects to realise about £120,000 in the next few weeks, including gate receipts from Saturday's match and another £150,000 before the end of the season from staged transfer payments, leaving a shortfall of only £30,000, which it says compares favourably with most clubs. The fans are as anxious as the financiers about the future.
A lot of supporters will feel anger, yes. There's disappointment, naturally. I mean, say, we've got one of the best teams we've ever had. We've got one of the best teams, and we've got a team which I think will be most likely promoted this season.
Well, some fans met the Hartlepool chairman, Gary Gibson, to express their fears for the future of the club. He himself was involved in a full round of meetings aimed at saving the club. He was in talks with the town's MP, Peter Mandelson, at the House of Commons before consulting lawyers for tomorrow's hearing.
We've made significant progress today. We can't say the battle is won yet, it isn't, but we're very optimistic and confident that we will win tomorrow and that we'll be able to get the game played on Saturday.
Where exactly does it go from here then?
Another round of meetings with a variety of people. We're just trying to reach agreement, reach a compromise with a number of people, and we're confident that we'll get there in the end.
I feel reassured as a result of my meeting with Gary Gibson that he and his colleagues are doing everything they possibly can to get the club out of this short-term crisis. And it is, I hope, a temporary cash flow crisis. I wanted to be sure that they're doing everything they can and they're handling the matter competently, and I think they are. We've got to put together a financial package that will enable the club to get back into the court tomorrow, to get the wind-up order lifted so that the team can play on Saturday.
We're attempting to get a winding-up order overturned, but the official receiver appointed to run the club's affairs says he can give no guarantees they'll be able to play their important cup game at Sheffield United on Saturday. The club, which was officially wound up yesterday, is pinning its hopes on the High Court backing its application. Its chairman, Gary Gibson, says its failure to pay debts of £250,000 was just a misunderstanding. But it's been a difficult day for the club, not least because its telephones were cut off when British Telecom said the bill hadn't been paid. Alan Powell reports.
1, 2, 3, 4, hey!
In spite of everything, Hartlepool was still united and still singing. At the Teesbeat Studios in Stockton, the team went ahead with their recording of the official cup song, Up and Away. It had been planned before the current crisis, and today the team were determined to show it was business as usual.
The situation is we're working very hard to resolve it, and the information we've got is that it will be resolved, and we're looking forward to Saturday's match now. And this afternoon's been good fun, and the boys have enjoyed it.
Cash crises and near bankruptcy are no strangers to Hartlepool, but they've never reached the 5th round of the Cup in their history, which is why Saturday's 4th round hurdle at Sheffield United is so important, and why today's training session at the Victoria ground had that extra edge to it. Meanwhile, the affairs of the club are in the hands of the official receiver, but that could change later tomorrow if the club's lawyers succeed in getting the winding up order rescinded or suspended. Chairman Gary Gibson was confident last night that they would succeed and had this message for the fans.
Please bear with us. I know you must be confused and worried, but we are confident that the situation will be resolved.
There is a future for the club.
Absolutely. It's obviously difficult for people reading the newspapers now or hearing the radio or the television, but you know, we are engaging the best legal brains in the country, and it's far from lost.
If it's not rescinded, then the club stays in liquidation, and either I remain as the liquidator or I can apply for the appointment of an insolvency practitioner to become the liquidator. Either way, they will have to decide what they're going to do to run the club, or to whether to cause the club to cease to trade. And I can't give any guarantees that the game will go on Saturday at all.
There's been one more irony for a football club facing extinction in its finest ever season. Only a few hours after the winding up petition was granted, members of Hartlepool Supporters Association celebrated the opening of their new clubhouse, the Corner Flag. The next 24 hours will be crucial in deciding whether or not its members any longer have a football club they can support.
This is not the first time Hartlepool's problems off the pitch have made headlines. The club's fight for financial survival is well documented. On the pitch also there's been a long history of struggle. Hartlepool has applied for re-election to the Football League a record number of times, as Steve Sutton now reports. This report coming up.
Today's headlines on the front page of the local Hartlepool Mail spelt out a defined message that signalled the fight to save the club is now well underway. Headlines of doom are nothing new, though, in the club's 85-year history. In recent years in particular, they've lurched from one financial crisis to another. In the last decade, the club has been under almost constant threat. In 1982, there were warnings it could fold, and an appeal for £60,000 was launched. Just under a year later, players threatened to strike. The taxman claimed £51,000. In October 1984, more tax bills and a High Court writ from an ex-chairman. 3 years on, and the club survived a winding-up order over a VAT bill. In November 1990, they teeter on the brink again, another outstanding tax bill. And then yesterday, a winding-up order is granted. The irony is that this, potentially the most damaging blow of all, comes as the team enjoys its most successful season ever. Real hope of promotion to Division 1, and on Saturday a plum tie at Sheffield United in the 4th round of the FA Cup.
We want the club to survive. It's in our interest, it's in the town's interest. Hartlepool without a football club, quite frankly, is a depressing thought.
Among those now being asked to rally round the club is the Borough Council, who own the Victoria ground where Hartlepool play.
As far as help to them is concerned, well, if we help the football club, then perhaps we have to help everybody who's in difficulty. And there are a number of firms and individual companies out there in Hartlepool and the surrounding area who are having problems in hanging on in this recession at the moment. The club is a commercial outfit, after all, and are responsible to their own shareholders.
The taxman and the Customs and Excise are not the only ones owed money. Local businessman Gordon Davis says he's been trying since last August to get £300 from Hartlepool for the production of 1,200 match tags and tickets. He says too much sentiment is attached to football clubs. Any other business in difficulty would have to fend for itself or go to the wall.
As a small company, if we were to get into financial difficulty, we would have to pay off staff, they would lose their jobs. We would probably have to sell equipment in an effort to pay off our creditors. The situation with Hartlepool Football Club, because they're a football club, there seems to be a great deal of romance attached to them, a great deal of sympathy for them.
Just an hour or so before yesterday's court ruling, Hartlepool's chairman Gary Gibson was basking in the glory of his club's famous cup win over Crystal Palace. Headlines had gone all over the world. Tonight, the manager's old cliché about football being a funny old game has never had a truer ring. Well, the Hartlepool chairman Gary Gibson has been in London today. Among those he met with the Hartlepool MP Peter Mandelson. And Mr Mandelson joins us now from our Westminster studio. Good evening, Mr Mandelson.
Good evening.
What did Gary Gibson say to you, and what, if any, reassurances about this situation were you able to give to him?
Well, I asked Mr Gibson to come and see me because I wanted to make it clear that I was right behind the club's efforts to overcome its temporary financial problems, and that I was going to work very hard behind the scenes in order to help them put together the package of emergency funds they need in order to go back to the court tomorrow and have this winding up order lifted. Now, we talked at great length about the possibilities. There are quite large sums of money which are owed to the club, which they can't get their hands on immediately, and therefore what we're talking about are temporary measures and temporary sources of funds in order to overcome those immediate problems, to enable the team to play on Saturday. And let's remember what's at stake. The team's had a tremendously successful season. They've done tremendously well for the town, for Hartlepool. They deserve our sympathy in these problems, and they certainly need our backing. And I hope that everyone in the town and the region will rally to the support of the club.
An awful lot of effort is going into saving the club, which at the end of the day is a business. We heard on our earlier report there from one businessman who says he's owed money by Hartlepool, and he says there's far too much sentiment put into football clubs. Do you accept that? Should they stand on their own feet, and if they can't make their own way, well, hard as it may be, they have to go to the wall like any other business?
I don't completely accept that, no. The club is very important to Hartlepool. Very, very many people in the town, myself included, enjoy supporting the team and going along to the matches, and we've basked in the success of our team this season. They've done well for the town. We must, in my opinion, put something back into the team now. Of course it's a business, of course it's a commercial concern, and in very many senses, although they've had their problems in the past and they're having problems now, they're better off than very many other clubs who are in much worse financial situation than Hartlepool United is now. So what we've got to do, in my opinion, is to come together behind the club, do everything we can to tide them over these temporary problems so that they can be put on a firm financial footing in the future. And certainly after this crisis is averted, I'll be talking about the future with Mr Gibson and his colleagues, because there's work to be done to make sure that the future for the club is secure.
Mr Mandelson, we must leave it there. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Ourselves here. Fans of the troubled club breathed a huge sigh of relief after they successfully persuaded the High Court in London to keep the side afloat for the moment at least. They now hope that victory will be repeated when they meet Sheffield United tomorrow in the FA Cup. The club's courtroom victory gives them breathing space as their debts mount up. However, the local council has today pledged a loan to try to keep them in business.
The players were boarding their coach for Sheffield at the same time as their chairman was in the High Court in London appealing for the club's survival. The players know that some of them might have to be sold to keep the club afloat.
There isn't anybody going to come and nick players because of our situation. I think we have to clear all the debt, that's for sure. But if we don't clear all of it, it's no point in getting a little bit and therefore giving our players away for nothing. So, you know, we are aware of our players' value, and people want to bid value for money, then we'll talk to them.
And a win tomorrow will make them even more valuable.
Well, of course. I mean, everything could turn around tomorrow, as funny as it is.
Just 15 minutes after the players left for tomorrow's cup tie at Sheffield United, a win there will get them into the 5th round for the first time in their 85-year history. The news came from the High Court that they'd been given a stay of the winding-up order made against them last Wednesday. It means they have a little more time to meet their debts.
We are urging all Hartlepool fans and the families to make their way to Bramall Lane tomorrow for this big game, because obviously the more people there are there, the greater potential revenue for Hartlepool United Football Club.
So are you confident the club can be saved, and what can the fans do to help?
We're very confident. The fans, coincidentally, the Popular Pools on the Move lottery is relaunched tomorrow morning, and we'd urge all Hartlepool fans, people, anybody that's ever been to Hartlepool, pass through Hartlepool, to subscribe on a regular weekly basis, 50 pence a week. They can win up to £2,200 in prizes, and that is a very valuable source of income to a football club.
Hartlepool will get about £60,000 from tomorrow's match, but still faces debts exceeding the £263,000 mentioned in the winding-up order. Among them, a bill from the consulting engineers who gave them their ground safety certificate. A county court writ for more than £2,000 was due to be served today.
I've instructed my solicitors not to proceed because of the pending High Court judgment. Of course, I don't want to see Hartlepool go down, but we've got to run a business. We've got creditors pressing, they've got creditors pressing, and you just can't run a business on promises.
Seeing the players off this afternoon, the policy chairman from Hartlepool Council, which has promised a £30,000 loan to help keep the club in business. The amount is the difference, the club says, between its creditors and debtors.
Football club is a prime asset to Hartlepool, and we want to make sure that the judge, as he hears the case this afternoon, knows that the town and the town council, and therefore the people, are fully behind Hartlepool United's survival.
The club will be applying for a full order to rescind the winding-up decision in the next few days. By then, the fans will know if they're still in the cup.
And there's more...
Sheffield United will go ahead, but Hartlepool's chairman, Gary Gibson, refused to say how long they've been given to pay debts of more than £250,000. Just before this afternoon's hearing, Hartlepool Council announced plans to provide a £30,000 emergency loan for the club. From London, Chris Eakin reports.
The club chairman arriving at the High Court.
Sorry, we're short of time. We'll be back.
Short of time in more ways than one. This was the club's one chance to put off the winding-up order.
At the club's request, the hearing has been held in private. The club's lawyers have brought with them a signed affidavit saying that they will pay the debts within about 14 days, or they may possibly need another week. Now, that's what the lawyers tell us, although we're not actually able to hear what's going on in court.
The club came out of the court still in business, but having to push its goods.
Tomorrow's game with Sheffield United is definitely on, and we urge all Hartlepool fans to make their way there, bring their wives, kids, everybody that can muscle up, because we want to see 5,000 or 6,000 people there, because obviously the more people there, the higher the percentage gate return we get.
From the smiles, Hartlepool have escaped again, but how they'll pay their debts has not been explained.
So, as we've just heard, today's ruling means Hartlepool will be joining 3 other sides from the region in this weekend's 4th round.
A major victory today without even kicking a ball. The winding-up order made against the club last week has been rescinded in the High Court. After a private hearing, the judge announced that creditors, including the Inland Revenue and Customs and Excise, will be paid more than £250,000 and the club stays in business.
Today was Hartlepool's 3rd appearance at the High Court within a week, but this time, rather than being delayed, the winding-up order was rescinded, with the court accepting that all the club's debtors would be paid now or very shortly. Outside the court, a delighted Gary Gibson thanked all those who'd rallied round.
We succeeded today because we were able to pull rabbits out of hats where we didn't even know last week we had hats.
Where did the money come from?
A variety of sources. Predominantly the majority of it was actually owed to the football club. I mean, the football club may have had significant debts, but it also had significant debtors, i.e. people owed money to him.
The chairman admitted the error in allowing a small debt to lead into a winding-up order, but he was optimistic about the future.
We're as confident as anyone can be. I mean, we're in the football industry, and we're quite successful at what we do. We make a profit, which we obviously need to make a profit. It's down to the people of Hartlepool. If they come in numbers to the games, we can keep the team that we've got, or a better team, and keep striving for promotion. They've got to tell us what they want.
Today's decision leaves Hartlepool in the clear, at least for the time being. But the readiness of the Inland Revenue to support the winding-up order puts the club on notice that in future arrears won't be allowed to build up. The club may have found a way back from the brink this time, but if the situation happens again, there's no guarantee they'll be so lucky.
Hartlepool's latest battle for financial survival kicked off 9 days ago because of the club's failure to pay for some new team shelters at the Victoria ground. The company in question brought a court action to recover their money, and as a result, other creditors also brought forward their deadlines for payment. One of the club's largest creditors was the taxman.
The Inland Revenue surprises this time. I mean, traditionally, Hartlepool has a record going back 15 or 20 years of being somewhat late making payments to the revenue. And certainly in my time as chairman, we've been able to do that on each occasion. On this one, we were caught out because with another creditor having commenced action, they simply had to join in, and it's the jumping in which caught us out and which made us obviously panic a little.
The High Court granted the club a further week's stay of execution, and the chairman has worked long and hard to come up with the necessary funds.
Simply, we are owed several £100,000 by other companies, other football clubs in respect of outstanding transfer payments. In some cases, have been successful in securing payments sooner rather than later. Other deals we've done, which we don't necessarily want to air in public, but we've been able to do them, and we've assembled the funds. Obviously, the fans have rallied around, being magnificent, but as yet we obviously haven't seen the benefit of that because the fundraising operation is still ongoing.
It's not been the best of weeks on the pitch for Hartlepool either. After Sheffield United had brought their FA Cup hopes to an end, on Wednesday night Huddersfield took all 3 league points from Alan Murray's side. Tomorrow they're back in front of their home fans for the first time since the High Court drama began. If Hartlepool's problems began at the Victoria ground, the solution could lie there as well.
What we need is people to come to...
Rest of the sports news. Here's Steve Sutton.
Up order which had been hanging over the club for the last 10 days. This afternoon, the judge accepted Hartlepool was able to pay its debts of more than £250,000. Chris Eakin reports.
All right, lovely. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Hartlepool's chairman off to London again. If anybody's been doing well out of this saga, it's British Rail and the London lawyers. This time the club knew it was close to the great escape.
We're scraping the barrel a little bit, like, but having said that, there's been some good support from unexpected sources.
So you're confident?
Very confident.
3 times this journey could have ended in the club being closed down by the High Court, but the threat went away today. Well, once inside the court, it took the club just half an hour to persuade the judge that it could pay its debts within a very limited time. The judge said he was satisfied that if the club was not wound up, it had a reasonable prospect of staying in business. And so he withdrew the winding up petition, and indeed, Hartlepool Football Club was from that moment back in business.
We're obviously delighted that...
And Mr Gibson's relief led to literally a long list of thank yous, as if he'd just won an Oscar.
There's a few people I'd like to thank. It's a bit like when you make a speech at your wedding and you miss the caterers off, you know. So let's just not...
Mr Gibson told the group outside the High Court that it had been something of a magic act.
We succeeded today because we were able to pull rabbits out of hats where we didn't even know last week we had hats.
Where did the money come from?
A variety of sources. Predominantly the majority of it was actually owed to the football club.
So Hartlepool lives on, and ironically all the down and out publicity has helped Mr Gibson get the rescue package together. No wonder he's saying thank you.
Well, today's court decision brings to an end a traumatic 10 days in the life of Hartlepool Football Club and the man at the centre of the crisis, the club's chairman, Gary Gibson. Jim Knight accompanied Mr Gibson and the team on their trip to Huddersfield earlier this week. Here's his special report into the larger-than-life Hartlepool chairman.
Another game, another night. Huddersfield Town, and Gary Gibson is where he loves it best, centre of stage.
Which is the away end, mate. Where's the away fans?
It's been a horrible trip down to West Yorkshire, fog and driving rain all the way. On board, though, the chairman's got an idea, to play a friendly against Newcastle to raise cash.
What we suggested to them is that, I don't know whether they'll go for it, is we suggested that we actually play them at St James's the week after the Clifton's promotion. We undertake to strengthen our side with Chris Waddle, Alan Shearer, and there's an outside chance of Gascoigne, but we'll see, which obviously Mel Staines fixing up for us. So Ryan, you won't be playing. But with due, you know, understandable reasons, like, if you tell your mum, Paul Gassington's got my shirt. I'm now 38 years old. I've been doing this since I was 34. I don't want to get to retirement age and look back on my life and say, oh, I wish I'd done that one out, and I wish I'd done that. I'm actually doing it now, right? I'm living it, I'm enjoying it, and from a commercial point of view, it's not a very great decision, but I love it, and as long as I love it, I'm going to keep doing it.
I think the question they're all asking, Gary, what happened?
Basically, we didn't react quickly enough to a creditor who was owed about £7,000. We made a few mistakes, and the Inland Revenue, who normally we bank on getting about 4 months' notice before any court action, which usually gives us time to sort ourselves out. It didn't give us 4 hours notice. They piled in, which is their right, and we've had to scurry around and get the money together in a week. At the end of the day, I'm the chairman of the club, and you know, if I'm the chairman of the club, I've got to hold my hand up, haven't I? We've taken an ambitious stance, and we've been found wanting. We get caught out. Now we're going to have to conduct our business in a more proper manner. We've certainly, I mean, I've had, you know, I can take probably more pressure than the majority of viewers watching this tonight, but I've been frightened to death, so I don't want to be in that state anymore.
I mean, there are people say Gary Gibson, he's in the property market. Property market isn't looking too healthy at the moment. Are you the best man to be in this position at this time?
I would like those people to say it to me first. I suspect there isn't people saying that, but it's merely the BBC saying that to get a good response from yourself.
I've talked to supporters there on the terraces.
No doubt you have, Jim. No doubt you have. If there's anybody here better than who thinks they can do a better job than I can do, and they've also got a very fat and healthy bank account which they can buy my majority shareholding in the club, then please step forward. One of the hidden snags, the worst thing is my 3 children get tormented at school. The eldest one in particular is 13. He's at senior school now. The school he goes to, they're all Sunderland and Newcastle fans, so he's at a bad start anyhow, being a Hartlepool, having his dad being chairman of Hartlepool. And this last week's been hell for him. They've called him also, as kids do, but you know, they can say and do whatever they want to me, because I'll take it all and give more back than what I get. Gibson, Hartlepool. Right, thank you, sir.
Hartlepool's chairman Gary Gibson. Well, on to the rest of the